Deck building is the main form of Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. It has changed over the past 20 years. Decks used to comprise of the most powerful of cards that were put on the limited list for reasons of what we know. Then after the game became too much, the banned section of the list came around. Over time, strategies and better cards started to be developed into the first decks with themes. These themes would take over the main portion of how the game functions. But then, slowly, Konami has a game that changed constantly from all the sets and lists. After time, the game became a rapid changing state that anything that didn't have speed and consistency fell short and other decks rose to the top. This is going to be a guide on how to help with deck building as a whole. I am Bolt Spider and I have built almost every single deck in every single format, so I understand how deck building works. So let's get right into it, as let's have a lot of fun with deck building and how to understand how deck building works as a whole, because deck building is a lot of fun to do. Now, since deck building has changed from a lot of different aspects from left to right, we have to take a look at back how they used to play. Now, over 20 years ago, if we look, it has definitely been something where they run a lot of one-of power cards. That is how it worked back then. Kind of like back here, you have so many one-ofs being Blacklist Soldier, Dark Magician of Chaos, Jinzo, Cyberjar, Morphing Jar, Sinister Serpent, Change of Heart, Forceful Sentry, Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, Premature Burial, Torrential Tribute, Magic Cylinder, and Call of the Haunted. Many of these cards are the power cards of what we know of today. Even Protector of the Sanctuary was a one-of power card. And overall, this is what older formats were. They were all just, let me play the most powerful cards in the deck, in the series, and what we have. And as the game progressed and more events started happening, Konami started to adjust with the Forbidden Unlimited list. So over time, we won't have things like this happening. This was a full hand loop deck running 3 Forceful Sentry and 3 Delinquent Duo, and those two became main staples in deck building. Same with Imperial Order and things like Painful Choice. Overall, this deck, or these decks, have changed for so much over time, and if we just go back to something like 2012, we could see the techs that are in here. People are running Gores, Thunder King Ryo, Spirit Reaper, that it lasted that long, and the first sites of hand traps being Effect Veiler, and later on, Max C, which were two of the most prominent of the hand traps. Some decks ran them, other decks didn't, but it started picking up traction around Necroz's format. Because if you look at deck building then, it's just 3 of every single card that was good, except things like Colossalist, Trishula, Gungnir. And it's because of the balance of how the deck works. Then we have other things like BA, where they ran 3 of everything, because they had to, because of the name. And it's just a lot of things changed. Infernoids is a great example of running a lot of 3-ofs of their names because the cards are good. So overall, we have here again, Draco Pal. A lot of power 1-ofs are in the deck, like Skullcrobat Joker, Monkey Board, Luster Pendulum, even Turtle, even though it was at 3. The 1 Solemn Warning because it was good, and then we have other things like Metal Foes with the 1 Kieran, the 1 Ignister, the 1 Luster Pendulum. Overall, decks has never left that theme of let's run that power 1-of card. Like, if you look at Spirals from back in 2017, they ran so many 1-of power cards. It was, the decks really haven't changed all that much from their core roots of deck building. A lot of power 1-ofs on top of their main deck. a perfect example is things like Striker. They have so many power 1-ofs by this time that that's what the deck was. Pot of Greed with a lot of triple Pot of Greed with a lot of 1-ofs. And then we started getting into formats just like at Emancipator, where only power 1-ofs they really ran were Foolish Burial and Monster Reborn. And Rockets, Eldritch, they really didn't have any 1-ofs, which is fine. But overall, let's get on how to deck build. So with this, I want to take an archetype and we deck build it from scratch. And that archetype would be the Ursarctic, or the Water Bears. So this deck right down somewhere, right about there in pre-release, right here, Ursarctic. This is a deck that I would like to try and deck build. So what do I usually do? I just put 3 of everything in the deck. And they are not that. So 3 of every Ursarctic that there is into the deck. Every single card that they have in their archetype that we know of. Now, when I look at this deck, I think of, oh, high level 8s and 7s. That is neat. So I instantly think of cards like Trade-In and Sacred Sword. Sword of 7. So right there, that's fine. Then we have other things that we could do. Since they're all Beast Warriors, we can run Ayers Rock Sunrise if we want to, or another type of card, but I'll see about that. Now, when I'm looking at this deck, I think of a lot of things that we could do. Because we could do so many things, like, let's go to Lithium's video. He is running the Deep Sea engine in the deck. And overall, that's actually a very good idea for this deck because of what it is. And overall, let's see what we could do. So the trap card is a 1-of because it's just there because you can add stuff back to your hand when you pay 700, and you contribute 2 to special 1 from the extra deck, whose level equals the difference, so it can turbo out your synchro monsters during your opponent's turn. I wish there was a level 8 synchro monster for the deck, so that would make the deck go into interesting territories. Now, whenever there's a option I can put in the side deck, that's fine. And that's a lot of fun when you're just deck building and thinking of options you can use. So other things is we read through the whole card and we think, is this card good? Like, this is a DD Crow. In this format, this card doesn't really do much. But this card right here is a Spell Trap Destruction card. That is completely fine. Then we have Megatanus. He is a Book of Moon. Right now, this card is absolutely amazing. Then we have the next one after that, being Mikpola. This card is a Rhoda for the deck, for the monsters, which is very good. And we have the Rhoda from the graveyard. And finally, we have the Rhoda for the spells. Actually, it special summons out another. So overall, what I think... Well, we're actually going to need these, because we need all the names that we can get. That is my speculation on the deck, because overall, more names you have for a certain deck, it's better. Now, we look at this, it target one and add it to your hand. We don't really want to recycle that much, but we do want the recycle just in case. And then special summon one from your hand. That is good, but it could be a little bit of a problem. Now we have other things like your slider. This targets a Ursarctic monster that is banished, special summon it, but it cannot attack, also destroyed during the end phase. That doesn't matter for us. For the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon except monsters that have a level. That's completely fine. So after that, this is an instant 3-of because of what it does. Then we have Big Dipper. It's a field spell, and I feel like we don't want to see it as much. Once per turn, if your Ursarctic monster would tribute a monster to activate its effects, you can banish one level 7 or higher Ursarctic monster from your graveyard instead. So this won't always be live. That is my thing about it. So putting it down to 1 or 2 along with the trap is completely fine. So now we have the base of what we want for the Ursarctic. So you always want to read your cards. Always read it till the last sentence, never skip over it. That is the main portion of it. And now we need engines for the deck, because this is just not enough for what the deck is. And first I'm actually going to do the hand traps, because those are the easiest to get out of the way. So the best hand traps right now are Lancia, Bell, Imperm, I believe, Nibiru, and Skullmeister. So what I want to do, I want to run the triple Bell and triple Imperm, because those definitely deal with the rest. And the cards that we side are Nibiru and Skullmeister, and that makes it better. So now this is where I just get rid of the Ursarctic monsters from the extra deck. So now we're already at 25 cards, and we could do things like Needle Fiber play, we could do so many other plays, but I kind of just want to keep it nice and balanced, because they don't say that, oh, you can only summon monsters with levels for Polari or others. So my instant thought would actually go to Deep Sea, because we have Diva, a very good card. We have Minstrel, a card that tanks a card out of your opponent's hand. Now, I'm just looking off of Lithium's build, and I'm not wanting to take any of its credits, but overall, this is definitely a correct move, because Deep Sea Aria definitely helps, because if you go Minstrel, discard 1, that is an instant 1 out of your opponent's hand, then you banish the Ursarctic monster, and then you get a level 4 Sea Serpent from your level 4 or lower, which is your Diva. Diva summons out whatever you want, most likely Atalantean Prince. And Atalantean Prince does quite a bit. So send Dragoon, add Dragoon, get a search of a Sea Serpent being Morning Glacia, and then you could do a lot of fun stuff with that. Now, is it a 3-of or a 2-of? That is up to you. Now, I don't want to see this as much, because it's going to be such a small engine, where I'm just going to run 1 of the Atlantean Prince. And we do have a couple more cards to fit in. So, two of the cards that we have to look at. We have to look at Marksman, which targets a set card on your opponent's field, and we have Infantry, which is an additional normal summon, along with targeting a face-up card your opponent controls. You could destroy it. This is better of the two, because Marksman only does piercing and special summons a level 4 or lower Atlantean from your deck. It's okay. So now, since we're running a main theme water deck, we're going to run Morning Glacia, because that is one of the better cards in the deck. Now, we do have 2 spots open, as I always go for a lovely 24 cards. So since we aren't doing Needle Fiber plays, we could still run it, because it is going to help us extend a little more. Then after that, let's see what the extra deck could hold. So we have the white aura cards, and these cards definitely can help. So with the deep auras, they are a synchro based deck or archetype that consists of 6, 7, 8, and 10. We are missing a level 9, so that could be the future. One of the better cards that we could do is White Aura Bahamut, because our Polari could help us get there. Now, this is definitely an interesting place on it. We haven't touched on the extra deck monsters. So Surfentron is our main card, and Grand Chariot is our secondary synchro. So we always want to get to Serpentron, then the Grand Chariot later. Now, without the fiber plays, it's going to be hard to get to Bahamut, so that's why we can also run the White Whale. Because we have Deep Sea Diva as our tuner, and we could get up to it easier. I wish we had the 9, so it's super generic and easy. Now, when we look at other things, we have things that are more generic than there could be. One of the easiest things that we could splash in is Herald of the Arclight, but Herald only is for the needle fiber stuff. If we wanted to do the needle fiber stuff, it's Despot 001 and a Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon with the Herald. Overall, this deck definitely has a lot of different areas they can go into. But overall, I don't want to go in that direction. So some of the things that we can also run are things like the Mermail series. Like Abyssgaios is an easy card to put in, because you can easily make it just with 2 of your level 7s, since we're running a grand total of 6 of them. And 8s, we can also run a rank 8 water. So if we look at the XYZs for the 8s of the water, there's only 3 of them, so it's not really that important. So other cards we can do Mecha Phantom Beast, Draco Stack, number 11 Big Eye, excuse me, and a lot of other things. So what I want to do is, we can run this, but I don't want to rip off someone else's, because my build almost looks like theirs. But I guess we're going to have to, because of the reason of how it functions and how it works. Now, we can do any level 9 synchro that we would like to, because of how it works. So any level 9 synchro can do. We could do Gothams with Cloud Castle, but that takes up a little too much resources. Now we don't run Colt Wing because that's not going to be part of our combo, because most we can get out of the Auroradon is all the way up into a 7, being Primadon. But we can definitely get extra cards out to get into the Bahamut, which is just Despot 001 and the 3 tokens. No, it's Primadonna and a token. So you go 001, 2 tokens into that, then go into White Bahamut. So that's easier said than done. Now the question is, what 9 do I want to do? We could do Vermilion Dragon Mech, or we could run a Shenshen. Shenshen is that very card that is a Macrocosmos if any card is sent from the field to the graveyard instead. So Shen Shen is going to be our choice for the 9. Now we have 2 filler spots, and what I usually do with filler spots, I just find things like, oh, we can possibly make Trishula. How do we make Trishula in this deck? Isn't that quite hard? Yes and no. Because we do have things like Deep Sea Diva plus Minstrel, that's 5 plus Dragoons. And also it can just always be a placeholder. But if I really want to do that, I would. Then other things we could do, since we have a 2 and a 7 or 2 and 8, we can go into 10. Or if we want to try and push it a little, Deep Sea Diva plus Neptibus and a level 8 is a Star Eater. So I'm going to be putting Star Eater in our deck, and I don't want to forget the 001 to put it in. And then the final piece that I want to put in is one of the more staple-ish synchros that, or cards that there is right now, which is a Boral Savage Dragon. So that is our deck, and we're at 41 cards. We can cut one hand trap to make it 40, but I kind of want to put in that other card. So the other card might be Deep Sea, might be the second Prince, but that is all up to my interpretation of which one I want. Now, if we draw into the one Neptibus, we're going to have to summon Diva to summon out the infantry to normal summon the Neptibus, but that's fine. Because we could just go into Herald of the Arclight if we wanted to, and do a couple other things. So I feel like that the other card that we should put in is something that is at 1. And we have a whole slew of cards that we can pick. We could have even put Omega in, because that's a very interesting card that we could play. But I think the one card that we should definitely put in, which would be either the Feather Duster or the one single Monster Reborn. It's one of these two, or the Call by the Grave. So out of these 3, the most impactful is going to be Monster Reborn, because it continues with your combo. Then after that, what I just do a test hand and see what can happen. So with this hand, we really can't do anything. So if we were a turn 2 deck, we would get a Minstrel. Right. So let's go again. Deep Sea. Okay, I'm just bricking at this point. A lot of Deep Sea stuff compared to other decks. So, oh, we don't. That's not. So overall, it's going to be a lot of trial and error to get to where we want. So this one, we did not. That's fine, because we can just tribute this one. And so we can special summon this. That's fine. And then, oh wow, that's actually a level 8. That's interesting. So it looks like here and there it's gonna be a bit bricky. So I feel like that this deck is definitely missing something of the sorts. Because we really can't do anything past this point. I feel like that we're going to have to change our deck, where we need kind of like a couple Mermail. So what we do, we can drop. Okay, this is why we test things. Drop a Minstrel and add a Megalo, just in case we need it. And since we're including Megalo, we can add Mrs. Zuchi as a spell negate. Now we're up to 43, so the Monster Reborn can definitely go away now. So this is a better test hand, so we do our Deep Sea Diva stuff first. then let's see where we can go. This is probably going to be the end of the video as well, as we are testing out the deck, and then Dragoon grabs the Megalo, and then after that we can go into our lovely Fiber plays. So Fiber activates the effect, and then we summon out the 001. We go into the Auroradon using its effect. Now we're locked out of the link summoning, which is completely fine. And then we use the 001 effect. Then we go into Primadon. And with Primadon, we go up into Bahamut. And the Bahamut summons out a Divine Token, which is level 10 in defense position. On your opponent's turn, you summon out one. So we get this, and it summons out the token. Next, since we opened up multiples, we could discard these and special summon Megalo, and Megalo gets its effect. So Megalo gets the Misuzuchi, and then we search out the Mooling Glacia. Now, how many waters do we have in graveyard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is a little too much over what we need. So I'm going to go into a lovely... discard that. Summon out this, and then we get the effect Search. And we're going to need the one that puts one back to our special summons one from the graveyard. So that one being... is there one that summons from the graveyard? No, there's not. So we get this one. Then we can activate the slider. And then we special summon this. So we get this back, which is completely fine. Now we can't do Synchro Replace, which is also fine. So then we can tribute this. Now Mooling Glacia might not be an option that we can do here. And I wish I would have searched off the lovely level monster. But that's like the bare grasp of what we can do. So things that won't work is Mooling Glacia. I don't see it being a good function in the deck. So this is what we have landed on after like 30 minutes. But anyways, if you guys got a little insight of how deck building works, it's more main cards, secondary, and then hand trap, or main cards, hand traps, secondary cards. That is how I build my deck, and then whatever's left over, I put in cards that are generic that can run to help out. But anyways, I have been Bolt Spider. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and if you did, hit a like button, and if you're new here, please subscribe, as I will start making more of this content in the future. Now, this on top of the Overwatch content that I'm going to be doing, it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyways, I've been Bolt Spider. See you guys in the next video, and goodbye.